Hello everyone. There is a common problem with the Scion TC manual transmission, the EB60. This is found in the 2011 plus Scion TCs and in some model year Camrys. This really is the only problem this manual transmission has, and once it's fixed you can go back to putting 250 foot-pounds of torque through it no problem. The input shaft has a support bearing on the end of the transmission that tends to make a whining noise sometime before 100,000 kilometers. You'll notice the sound easily if you're idling and you let your clutch out. Sometimes it's mistaken for a throwout bearing problem, but that's only when you press the clutch in rather than out. This bearing is the only bearing in the transmission that happens to be sealed and greased rather than open and oiled. This presents a problem, especially when driving the car at high RPMs. This is the bearing right here, and it's sealed rather well. The idea is that the grease inside will trap whatever debris in there, like the bearing's worn metal, and keep it from acting like sandpaper against the moving surfaces. The problem is, if you look inside, you can see that there's no more grease left in here. This is the bearing I removed from the transmission, and as you can see, there's a small amount of oil in here instead. That's not good. Now you may ask, where did all the grease go and where did the oil come from? Well, it seems that whenever the grease gets extra hot, either because of high RPMs or a long drive, it expands and a small amount of the grease is ejected out of the seals. And when the transmission cools down, a slight vacuum is now left inside, which pulls in some of the surrounding oil. After enough hot-cold cycles, all the grease has now left the bearing and mixed in with the rest of the oil. If you were to look at the other bearings in this transmission, you'll notice that they're all open and oiled. This is important because you need a constant flow of oil to dissipate the heat so that the oil can keep lubricating. If you were to suddenly seal that bearing, then that small amount of oil being recycled inside would quickly overheat and break down. This is why that bearing goes bad. It was never designed to have oil inside of it, and as soon as some of the grease is replaced by oil, there will be ineffective lubrication and the wear on the ball bearing will accelerate. This is what causes that whining noise. This bearing should have never been used in this transmission. Even if you got your dealer to replace it, this may just reset the problem. There's not many instances of this bearing going bad the second time around, but I still think the design is flawed, so I'd like to solve this problem the right way. Mark from Frankenstein Motorworks came up with a clever solution for this, and that's what I'll be doing in this video. I'll show more detail when I get the transmission open, but the idea is to simply remove the top seal on this bearing and let it act as an oil bearing. This shouldn't affect anything because why would it? It's just steel parts. It's not like it has tolerances made for grease and grease only. Doing this should extend its life to that of the other bearings and give you the peace of mind that it won't fail anytime soon, like if you were to simply replace it. I've linked his video where he does this replacement in the description, but my video will also focus on getting the EB60 out from the Mr2 Spyder without dropping the entire drivetrain, or more importantly, disconnecting the coolant lines. Bleeding the coolant system again is a pain in the butt, and I don't want to smell coolant in this entire procedure. I'm starting off by putting planks of wood both in front of and behind my front wheels. I'm not sure which direction the car is going to shift while lifting it up, so I'm preparing for both scenarios. As it so happened, the car moved both forwards and backwards while lifting it up. I'm using a hydraulic lifter to jack it up from the middle of the transmission. You can also lift the car from the rear mount, but my lifter didn't reach that point. Once it was high enough for about 2 levels on the jack stands, which actually should have been 3, I removed the left wheel. I thought I didn't need to remove the right one, but I needed to later. Next, I'm removing the exhaust. It's held on by a V-band on one end and 2 bolts on the other, so I have to support the tubing so it doesn't try to bend too much and stress any of the mounting points. I just put a small box of wood I had to keep it supported. Then I'll drain the transmission fluid. This needs a 22mm socket. This oil isn't exactly cheap, and I've only driven about 2,000 kilometers on it, so it's getting reused. And I'll put the drain plug back in now. Now to the top of the car, I am removing the air filter. It's a very tight fit, so I had to crush the filter a bit to remove it. This didn't really damage it, just bent the mesh a little. And then the rubber tube, which has 2 clamps. It supports the purge line, so remove that plug. The MAF tube has 2 10mm and 1 8mm screws holding it onto the mount and ECU bracket, respectively. Onto the back side of the transmission, there is a ground wire that is held in by a bolt. I removed that and tucked it out of the way. Now I'm disconnecting the clutch line from the transmission. I tried to collect the drops of brake fluid as I don't want that getting on the ground and corroding anything. Bad idea, but good thing this stuff is easy to wash off. Both axles will need wiggle room to be removed from the transmission. For the right one, I'm removing the axle carrier bracket and all the bolts connected to it. This axle is supposed to just slide out, while the other one has a snap clip holding it in place. The left side needed a crowbar to pry it out. It's either that or a fork tool to properly remove the axle end. Then I got bored, so now to the O2 sensor. I'm disconnecting the wire and removing it from the header as I don't want it to get caught in anything. Fuel line needs 2 wrenches to take apart. There's a lot more that's going to spill out than you'd expect. Now to the shifter linkage. Both cable ends have a retaining clip keeping them in place. After removing this, you'll see that the bearing is sandwiched between 2 wave washers with a big washer holding everything down under the clip. Removing the cables from the transmission holder thingies is very tough, so I'll just remove the hex bolt holding the whole thing for the left cable and the transmission to engine bolt holding down the right cable. This is easier said than done. Next, I'm removing the starter cable and solenoid wire. Back to the suspension. I really don't want to remove the axles from their hubs as I couldn't be bothered to retorque them. As for the suspension components, I also really don't want to get an alignment, so just remove the control arms from the axle hubs themselves. This allows me to pull the axles a few inches away from the transmission, and after lowering it a bit, should allow me to pull them out. Also, 1 bolt to remove the left parking brake mount so I can move it out of the way. Now to remove the battery, 2 J-bolts holding it down and work it out from the top. With the lifter back under the transmission to lightly support it, I remove the front and rear mount bolts. The left side mount bolt is removed, with the plan to tilt the entire drivetrain while the right side mount is intact. I did have to loosen the right side bolt about 5 to 10 turns to give the mount enough clearance. I started to lower the lifter while making sure the coolant lines haven't been ripped off yet. I realized that removing the mounts themselves gives me a lot of wiggle room, especially since the drivetrain is coming down at an angle. The transmission doesn't need too much distance to clear the frame of the car, but it's a tight fit. This part was a bit hard to film, but all I did was remove the transmission to engine bolts. This was after I put a jack stand under the engine bridge so that the engine doesn't just fall out later. There are still 2 dowel pins aligning the transmission, so it's not like it's going to fall off and damage the pressure plate. Then I used a piece of wood to separate them, and slowly lowered the transmission while wiggling the left side axle away from it. I had slipped the right side axle out already. And now that it's out, it's magically in my basement. This weighs almost 100 pounds with no good holding points, so I needed some help. The shifter linkage connects both halves of the cases together and needs 1 bolt to be removed. Aside from that, the disassembly process is just the same as I did in a previous video, so I'll just speed through this. Remove all the D10 plugs and reverse screw along with the C-clip on the cross gate selector. The selector needs to be pushed in to remove the case halves. Then undo the bolts holding the 2 halves together. It wasn't enough to use the 2 pry locations, so I lightly tapped in a razor blade to start the separation. This didn't end up scratching anything. Now that the 2 halves are apart, we can take a closer look at the bearings. For your reference, the one with the green seal is the old one, and the one with the black seal is the new one. Prying it off, you can see that there's no more grease left in there. When I spin it, it rattles compared to the new one, which stops quickly like a bearing should. I need to remove the entire input shaft to get the bearing replaced, which isn't too hard. First, I pull out that selector axle, and then the small piece underneath it. Now I'm removing the reverse assembly. This has 2 hex bolts, and then you can remove that assembly and the reverse idler itself. I then tip the transmission over to remove everything at once, as the pieces sort of lock together. The input shaft needed some persuasion from a rubber mallet to get the tight-fitting bearing out from the case. Setting the other pieces aside, I can now focus on the bearing that I want to remove. I put the input shaft back in by itself so I can easily work on it. I tried removing the snap ring, but it took almost breaking it to remove it. I guess my snap ring remover just isn't that good. To get the bearing out, you need to use a hydraulic press and press out from underneath 6th gear. I got a shop to do this. The teeth are hardened, so if you're doing this yourself, you'll either need a jig or some aluminum plates so that the teeth can dig in rather than chip away. Those 2 roller bearing halves then go back on, and 6th gear slides right on them. The new bearing gets pressed in and the snap ring is put back on. A new snap ring is recommended by Toyota, but I don't have time to wait for one as you need the same part version according to the small number engraved on your current snap ring. Right now I'm just sliding a selector ring back on that I'd previously removed to make handling easier. I roughly assemble the components and I put the differential back in. I put a piece of wood on just so I can slide the components in place, as one of the gears goes below the differential. Don't forget about the magnet in the back, that should be cleaned. Time to clean the gasket material off of both halves, but in hindsight, this could have been done before reassembling. Just a safety razor that's almost parallel gets it done. And now for the bearing modification. Popping the cover off, you can see the grease that should be in there. Now this bearing will act like an oil bearing, but to actually get oil in there, we need to drill a small hole into the plastic oil guide piece in the other transmission half. First remove the shim, then I'm drilling about 1/8 of an inch hole in that area to provide a path for the oil flow. The rest of the oil should pool up and fall into the middle of the hollow shaft like it should, to continue oiling the rest of the gears. Now to reassemble the reverse components. Those two bolts need 13 foot-pounds and Loctite just in case. The reverse idler piece can rotate freely, but you'll want to align the bolt hole so that it's pointing out parallel with the other case's bolt hole for it. For good measure, I'm test fitting the case a few times so I know to avoid the bearing hitting the side of the case. This is because the shim might come off easily and I just want to make sure it's aligned when I put it back in. Cleaning both faces with brake cleaner, I put a thin line of RTV all around. Spread it out with my finger, then put the case halves together. All the bolts go around and I finger tighten them after I make sure that the reverse bolt can go in. Put back all the detents, sealed with RTV, and I tighten the case bolts to spec after an hour. Selector gate is pulled back out and the C-clip is reinserted. Back to the car. I start lifting the transmission, and when it's at the proper angle, I can start bringing it in closer. Having both body and transmission front side mounts removed made it easier to align, and also helped when I had to reposition a hose clamp slightly for the coolant hose. I then put the bolts in place and used them as a guide to bring the transmission closer to the engine. This took a while, but after aligning, the steps just had to be done in reverse. Well, that's it for this video. This took me about a week to complete because of many hiccups, but I'm glad that's done right. I never want to touch my transmission again after this. But better done now than have my bearing explode someday down the road. Thanks for watching.